Hey everybody, we are going to do a brief and sort of scattershot update on the fish room here today. I feel like I got a million things running through my brain and all kind of ideas, and I've already begun shooting some videos that aren't going to be ready for a couple of days, and so I feel like I want to just kind of clear the slate and get all this out of there, talk about what's going on, and then we can all sort of move on from there. So this is my waterfall tank. As many of you already know, I have been treating it for the cyanobacteria again. That's why you can see the airstone in there. There are a little bit of suds because I did just add some more of the ChemiClean. Now this time when I added it, I simply took the container and tapped it in there. I didn't measure it out, and when I did that, it sort of oopsied in there a little heavier than it should have been. A big clump dumped in, and when it dumped in, all of my little guppies in there swam up to the surface and started swimming around through the little clump of powder that had just fallen in as though they were being fed. So if that's not going to be a test of how you can sort of overdo it with this stuff and it won't affect your fish, then I don't know what will. They were physically eating the powder as it sprinkled into the tank. And of course the tank doesn't have a whole lot of cyanobacteria left in it after my initial treatment. It looks really good, but I'm also starting to get some foam again. So that gives me an idea that I must have put a lot in there, and I could actually be generating some of that foam because of the stuff that's dying off throughout the system rather than just in the tank itself. You can see all that dark green and everything is cyanobacteria. So I might be killing off some of that in the process. So we've got that going on. I also moved my bird's nest fern. You can see right there. It's looking a little rough. And when I pulled it out of there, it was still in the little plastic disposable planter that I got it in from the nursery, and it was only about that big around and about that deep, and it was root bound to say the least. So I tore all the roots up, got it all ripped open, and opened the roots up nicely, and then I transplanted it into a slightly larger planter. You can see it's not very much larger. You can see it's the sort of original clump of dirt in the middle. So we've got what, an inch wider all around, but it's more soil for it to grow into, and it's fresh soil that has fresh nutrients in it. So I'm hoping just that little bit of a bump will green it back up and get us some new growth. I've also got it in a place where it's actually physically got water dripping on it now, and it's actually wet rather than just having the soil moist. The plant itself just has water all over it. So I don't know if that's going to be good or bad. We're going to find out. I did that, and I moved it over so that I could put that planter over in this corner, and you can see it's starting to soak up some moisture from the bottom and staying nice and damp. What I put in that is an elephant ear. I did a little bit of research on elephant ears. I know they're shade plants, but apparently they do well in the sun if they are in a very wet location. If like a marginal plant along the side of a pond that would be out in the sun all day, as long as its roots are nice and moist, it can deal with being out in the sun all day like that. So I think we've got an ideal situation. Now, of course, anybody that's familiar with an elephant ear knows that this is a very temporary situation, because that thing is going to get way too big to actually be in here eventually. But it'll be fun in the meantime. And so I'm looking forward to seeing how that all plays out. Otherwise, we've got tulips coming up over here that are looking really good. We've got a bunch of daffodils that are coming up in here that are looking good. Over here, we have got my other daffodils that are finally beginning to come up. At least a few of them are. I was beginning to wonder about these. I got these all from last year's clearance from Walmart. I paid $5 for each sack of bulbs. It was like 35 bulbs for $5 or something. I figured, what the heck, if half of them come up, I'll be happy. And so far, most of them are coming up. This planter, I was a little worried. I didn't know whether they were really going to come up or not, but apparently at least one of them is, and it looks like this soil's starting to push up right here, so we're probably getting a couple going to come up in there. I might have buried them a little deeper than I did in the other planter, who knows. So that's pretty much what's going on with the waterfall tank over here. If you noticed as we walked past, I've got my camera set up. I've got myself a new tripod, and I've had this camera for a long time. It's actually a really nice camcorder, but I've never been able to get any kind of microphone to work with it, and therefore, unless you're really close to it, it doesn't really work well for the kind of videos I shoot. I do I have gotten a microphone that works for it, and I'm now trying to get a lapel mic for it. And what I've managed to wind up doing, and the reason I'm doing this is because, again, my regular viewers know that this waterfall here, it's so loud in all my videos, and there's nothing I can do about it. Anywhere where I'm going to have the camera centrally located, whether I'm, filming that tank over there, I'm filming this way, the camera's always right here in front of that waterfall, and that's all you can hear in my videos. Even with my, I'm mic'd up right now. I've got a lapel mic on, and you can still hear that waterfall. When I sit over there, you can hear that waterfall, and so I'm trying to work out ways to reduce the sound of that, and one of them that I've done is I've got a directional boom mic, and I've been experimenting all day with different positions and places I can put it that will actually give me better sound quality. And so far, the best I've been able to do is tuck it back here sort of behind the waterfall, and I've even taken a piece of styrofoam, and I've put styrofoam next to it to maybe block even some more of the sound. And of course, this is a directional shotgun mic, so sounds coming from the side are going to be reduced, and sounds coming from the end are going to be picked up more clearly. And of course, that's the stool I sit on when I'm shooting the video, and I think the sound quality came out pretty good. You can hear the waterfall, but it's not as dramatic. And so one last piece of equipment that I've ordered is a lapel mic, but instead of being the omnidirectional lapel mic like I'm wearing now, it would be a directional lapel mic. So if I've got it pointed upwards towards my face, then you are going to tend to hear me more than anything else in the room. It'll help reduce noise from around the room. So I'm hoping that'll pick up the sound quality on my videos a little bit too. Next, we've got my waterfall tank, my native tank. And I shot a video recently where I talked about one of the crayfish in there looked like it had died during the sloughing process while it was molting. And when I went in there later and checked, it sure enough did. It was split across the back. A little bit of the softer flesh from under the shell had bulged up sort of through the crack, but it never was able to get any further than that. It was not able to slough that old shell off. And when that happens, it's because they don't have enough calcium. And as I touched on in the video, I never followed through with this thought, and I wanted to finish this up. I mentioned in the video that I don't have any calcium in my water, and that might intuitively seem like a problem, but where I collect these crayfish, there's no calcium in that water either. I get them from very, very soft water. And what I meant to finish up with saying that I never did was that they don't get their calcium from the water, they get their calcium from their diet. And I assumed that putting the algae wafers, the high-calorie algae wafers and standard fish food, I assumed that would be a well-balanced enough diet that they would get all the calcium they needed by doing that. But clearly, that's not the case, because I believe I had 2 of them that died during that molting process. And so what I've been doing is putting freeze-dried krill in the tank. So when the crayfish, the one remaining crayfish that is now in there, it's living under here now. The one that was over on this side has now died. And as far as I can tell, there's only one left. And in it, if it's eating that freeze-dried krill, it'll have the shell to eat, and that will help. I'm also going to focus on getting more calcium-rich food in there, such as, dark leafy greens. I believe they have a lot of calcium in them. I'm thinking about eggshells, but I don't know what eggshells would do. I don't know if the crayfish would eat the eggshell or not, and if it didn't eat the eggshell, then I don't know what purpose it would serve. I don't know, like, the eggshell's not going to dissolve into the water enough to make a difference. It might put a little bit of mineralization in the water, but it's not going to make any kind of a difference to the crayfish. So diet is the way to go, and so far I've done that by putting freeze-dried krill in there to give the crayfish a source of calcium. And lastly, I will say the video that I started working on tonight that I was sitting there shooting is going to be a video about my empty quarantine tank. And I'm curious as to how long a tank can sit with no fish in it and still have a functioning nitrogen cycle. In other words, if I brought fish home from the store today and put them in my quarantine tank, would I have to recycle that tank? It's been over a year since there's been fish in it. So do I need to recycle it? Is it still cycled? The filter's been running. It's been oxygenated water. You can see the heater is still running. The only thing is there's just been no food source. There's been no fish in there. And so has that bacteria gone dormant? Is it dead? Has it starved to death? It's got oxygen in the water. You know, it's got an environment that it could live in. The only thing it's missing is the fish and an ammonia source. And again, I'm wondering, does that stuff just go dormant? Or will it actually starve to death if it doesn't get food for a long enough period of time? And so tonight I've shot the introduction to that video. We've begun taking some, you know, preliminary samples of water to get baselines of ammonia, and we're going to watch over time and see what happens to the ammonia, and so on and so forth. And that's going to be a experimental video that I'll have coming up. I'm going to wait and put it all together, and once I've got some kind of conclusion, we will post that video. So maybe in about another week or so, we'll be doing that video. So if that's a topic that interests you, make sure you're subscribed. You don't want to miss that or anything else I got coming up. You never know what it's going to be. Oh, you do know what it's going to be with me, because one of the videos I'm going to shoot coming up, I want to shoot a video in praise of angelfish. I love angelfish, and I get a lot of requests from people all the time, and I don't know why I don't shoot more of these videos, but I get a lot of people that ask me to shoot videos just about my experience with keeping any, you know, particular fish, what it's been like, you know, my challenges, things I like about them, that sort of stuff. And I've been wanting to do that for angelfish for a long time, because I really, really like angelfish. I think they're a sort of very misunderstood fish within the hobby, and I think they're a great beginner fish. I think they're a fantastic beginner fish. They're far, far better beginner fish than a goldfish is by a long shot. And you can tell he doesn't like that little bit of activity around his fins. Everybody thinks they're getting ready to get some dinner. And then, of course, here comes the little loach wanting to do its thing. But remember, as I've said before, if you look really closely, you can still see all the little filaments on the tips of its fins. Got my algae eaters up there. I've even got a loach hiding up here in this Java Windelov. But you can see all the little filaments and everything on the fins on this angelfish, and that lets you know that while these other fish might be bothering it a little bit, they're not damaging it. They're not actually nipping its fins or anything. You can see them in all their glory right there. I swear they're doing it just because they're bored and they like teasing that angelfish or something. I don't know. Maybe they think he's got a silly haircut. So there you go. That is something I've got coming up. So you can't say you don't know what I got coming up. I got that coming up, and you never know what else I've got coming up. So if you're subscribed, you won't miss that or anything else. And of course, you don't want to miss the video about my experiment with the ammonia, and let's find out what goes on with the nitrogen cycle and how all that works. So thanks for watching this one. Hope you enjoyed that. See you real soon in the next one.